Hold on to your butts.
Da-da-da. You were saying?
Welcome to episode 117 of the Civil War Breakfast Podcast. Tonight, I am joined by the guy that is insistent that I do the hosting thing every other episode, even though I suck at it. So yes, I'm joined by my co-host Darren tonight, who's far better at intros than I am. I am Mary, and this is my intro for episode 117 of our podcast.
Wow, okay. Well, that was a job done. I'm going to give you my J. Peterman nod on that one. The job done.
Terrible.
Anyway.
I'm shocked we don't get, I don't know, anybody ever says anything to me about how shitty I am.
I don't know. It is what it is. So what's going on, Mary? It's Friday night. The day is winding down. The weekend is beginning. So we have a lot of cool things coming up this weekend, but we got some business to take care of tonight. So what's going on with you?
Well, it's October. It's a beautiful day here in Massachusetts. Feels like summer almost. We were out earlier for a walk, so it's really, really pretty. But we are, back here recording tonight. It's been a couple of weeks since we last recorded an episode. But before we get to our actual episode, I just need to take care of business because you always accuse me of never doing this. But what are you drinking tonight?
Oh, thank you for asking, Mary. Seriously. I'm drinking Boom Sauce from Lord Hobo, which is a double IPA locally from this Boston area, which is a really, really good thing. And I'm drinking it out of my What Would John Brown Do mug because it was the anniversary of his reign at Harper's Ferry and his capture this past week down at Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. So I figured that would be a good mug. So what about yourself, Mary? What are you drinking tonight?
I am also drinking Lord Hobo. I am drinking Angelica, and I'm drinking it out of my Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania National Military Park mug because it was the one I grabbed out of our cupboard. And plus we don't have a mug for the battle we're going to be discussing tonight, which is Bristoe Station. So we'll get into that now. So the Battle of Bristoe Station is fought October 14th, 1863 in Prince William County, Virginia. It's a few months after the Battle of Gettysburg has been fought, and it does involve some participants from that battle on both the Union side and the Confederate side.
That is true, Mary. Anyway, so as I was saying, this past weekend was the 30th anniversary of the movie Gettysburg, and the town, as I'm sure, is dealing with the fallout from that whole thing. In this episode tonight, we're going to talk about is similar in a way. We're going to talk about the fallout of the Battle of Gettysburg campaign that bled into the late summer and fall of 1863. Yeah. And in the period of late July of 1863 to the end of the year is definitely one of the more understudied aspects of the war. But in the East, that dance between Robert E. Lee and George Meade, it continued well after the Gettysburg campaign ended. And I think the perception is after the Gettysburg campaign is over, nothing really happened for the rest of the summer and the fall. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that. And it's certainly not true. Late in the summer of 1863, in the East anyway, both the Army of the Potomac and the Army of Northern Virginia, they were sort of feeling each other out a little bit, and they were trying to figure out what the other was going to do. Meade and his army, they're encamped in a place called Warrenton, Virginia, which is about 20 miles west of Manassas, near the old Bull Run battlefield. Mm-hmm. So despite what you've heard to the contrary, Mary, Meade very much at this point wanted to pursue Lee, and he wanted to see if he can get him to do a full retreat south. Yep. Beyond the Rapidan River. He wanted to keep pushing him. Now, Lee's Army of Northern Virginia at this time, they're sitting behind the Rapidan, and they're trying to take their time, and they're trying to reinforce from their losses at Gettysburg and all throughout the late summer. And for the most part, they kind of recouped a lot of their numbers because their manpower losses were hard, but they grew their ranks back up to about 72,000 by the end of the summer. And really, both Meade and Lee, they both kind of knew each armies were kind of beaten up, and the other army was also beaten up. And through battle losses, it shrunk the army's total. And other factors took a lot of place. We're going to talk about to help continue to reduce their numbers, especially Lee's Confederates. Now, I don't know if you know this, Mary, but there was a Western theater to the war too. I don't know if you've heard this. And back in Georgia and Tennessee, stuff was going down. Braxton Bragg and his Army of Tennessee, he phoned a friend, and what he wanted to do was need help to deal with William Rosecrans in what was going to become eventually the Battle of Chickamauga, right? Mm-hmm. So soon after Gettysburg, and for reasons both military and non-military, Confederate President Jefferson Davis, he thought it was a good idea to take Lee's old warhorse, James Longstreet, and his first corps of those battle-tested veterans and send them west, young man. He thought that was the best thing to
Yeah.
do.
It's almost kind of like
And
he's in a timeout in a way, just because of the fallout from Gettysburg and what happened with Pickett's charge and all that. But, Rosecrans does need the troops at Chickamauga for sure to help him.
well, I mean, Bragg.
Yeah, sorry, Bragg.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
Bragg.
Longstreet, Longstreet and Lee kind of needed a little bit of time, little
Yeah,
couples
that's
therapy
what I
thing.
mean.
Go
Like,
take your
yeah,
time,
that's what I
right?
mean. Like a kind of a timeout. And this
So
was the
so that
perfect
was
excuse.
it was probably a good deal, but at this time, like I said, Lee had just grown his army back up to 72,000. But when Longstreet's men left, which is basically a third of his army, one of his three corps, he found himself with just 55,000 men remaining. So he lost quite a bit. As I said, Meade wanted to chase Lee,
Hmm.
but he's being told to cool his jets by the powers that be in Washington, especially one Henry Halleck Mary, who told me that if he pursued, there was no way he could be reinforced.
Yeah.
So he's telling them in all this mixed messages. Halleck's telling him just kind of cool for a while. Meade had to deal with the fact that he was losing men too. Don't forget, he ended up losing a lot of his men, quite a bit anyway, to New York City to deal with those
Yeah.
draft riots we talked about. It's cool these episodes all kind of come together,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. And he's going to
So
lose
he
some as well. After the Battle of Chickamauga, he's going to lose Slocum and Howard
right,
to going out to
right,
the
but
Western
that's
Theater.
right, but that's a little bit of time off
Yeah.
though. We're still in the summertime
Yeah.
here. So he's for the most part going to see his guys go up to New York City. He's going to lose quite a bit. So Meade is going to have to stay put north of the Rappahannock River for about 6 weeks. And around this time, Washington is kind of trying to decide what the hell to do with Meade and his army. While this downtime is happening, the personalities of George Meade, Henry Halleck, and Abraham Lincoln, they're all starting to clash at this point
Hmm.
because they're trying to figure out the White House is still, harboring a little bit of ill will maybe towards Meade for
Very
letting Lee
unfairly.
escape of a Williamsport, right? Exactly. And, so for the most part, he's trying to figure out Meade is, am I the right guy for this job? I don't know what the hell's going on with
Well,
this.
I don't blame him for that, because you look at the AOP since, like, since McClellan left, they've had Burnside, they've had Hooker, and now they've got Meade in. And Meade is probably wondering, like, oh, wow, I've been in this since like late June, and it's starting to get on now. And I haven't, they're not happy with Gettysburg. Like, when am I going to be ousted, kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, in this area of Warrenton, Meade has been using a railroad, the Orange and
Hmm.
Alexandria Railroad, as his supply line, as well as his Avenue South. And Meade wanted to kind of abandon it because, for one, it had no real strategic value. It cost him 5,000 guys to guard it, between Warrenton and the Potomac. So
Hmm.
he wants to kind of go off the rails, literally here. But Lincoln's going to feel otherwise because Lincoln, he wants Meade to kind of stay anchored on that railroad track because he knows that if he's going to hit Lee again, he's going to have to use that trail. He
Yeah.
also knows that Lee is likely along the railroad, so he wants to be able to go down because he still wants to go take care of Lee. And this debate is going to go on for the most part through the summer of 1863. What to do? What's Lee going to do? What was the story? Lee is sitting behind the Rapidan, and he's also trying to formulate a game plan. He's not sitting around deciding idly what to do. He wants
Yeah.
to do something as well. He knows Longstreet's gone, but he also wants to maintain the initiative, okay? And what he wants to do, he wants to find a way to strike Meade, but he's concerned that he lost his first corps.
Hmm.
He's like, well, how the hell can I do this? I want to do it, but I've lost a lot of guys. I lost my most senior corps commander, but I don't want to lose the initiative and don't want to give it to Meade. So for the most part, despite this sudden troop disadvantage, he isn't too concerned about being attacked. In between him and Meade is going to be the town of Culpeper.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's a great buffer. It offers protection between the both armies. So if Meade's going to come, Lee's going to see him coming for a mile. So he's not too concerned about it. Around now, Lincoln is going to get a report that Longstreet is, maybe this on September 13th, he's going to hear that rumors that Longstreet has vacated the dance floor.
Yeah.
And so he's going to sit there and say, George, why don't you find out if this is true or not. So he's going to order George Meade to send his cavalry under Alfred Pleasanton to go to Culpeper and see what's afoot at the Circle K, right? He
Yeah.
wants just to go see if this is true. Two things are going to happen here, right? Pleasanton, on his way, is going to bump into Jeb Stuart,
Yep.
his cavalry south of the Rapidan, and he will verify, yes, in fact, Longstreet is gone. That's how they're going to do it. His first corps is gone, Longstreet's out. So Pleasanton's cavalry is going to get confirmation on that. So now he knows that, Meade knows that Lee has less men now, and he does. But he also, here's the thing, he has no idea what Lee's doing. And this is going to haunt him for the next few months now. He knows Lee's lost a lot of guys, but he knows Lee's personality and what he wants to do, and he can't figure out, is he planning on attacking? Is he planning on falling back for the winter? This is going to be in Meade's head for a while, and this is going to be a good psychological warfare that Lee is going to play on Meade, right? Knowing he has more men and probably wanted to show Lincoln that he basically still wants to attack on September 16th, Meade is going to move his army into Culpeper. The area where he's going to move is going to be called the Culpeper V. Okay, it's also called the Iron Triangle. Okay, and the reason why they call that is because it basically it's surrounded by the Rappahannock River at a point where it intersects the Rapidan.
Yeah,
and also the Blue Ridge Mountains are going to be on your right. So it looks like a V. It just does, right? But the problem is it's very unstable, because if you're going to be attacked and you need to retreat, you're going to have to deal with rivers or a mountain range. So it's not a place to sit idly by, but he's going to move there anyway. But he also knows that he's in a prime position to launch an offensive from there if he wants to. The problem, he's getting no clear direction from Lincoln on what to do with this. So he's like, well, I'm going to move down and put myself in position to attack if we're going to attack. But every day I'm here, I'm being threatened by, if I'm attacked, I'm in a bad spot, right? So around September 18th or 19th, Mary, Meade is going to use this time to send his cavalry again to recon that area. And this time what he's going to do is, this is right around exactly when the Battle of Chickamauga is
I was going to say, it's
18th,
exactly
19th.
like, there's lots of stuff going on in the Western Theater.
Right. So Meade, his numeric superiority is going to change here. You kind of alluded to it a little while ago. So what's going to happen?
After the Battle of Chickamauga, Rosecrans is going to be in a position where he could be sieged by Bragg. So they take a lot of the 11th Corps, not all of them. A lot of them are going to go to the Western Theater with Howard, and Slocum is going to go as well, and so is Hooker. So the three of them are going to go out to the Western Theater. So that is a loss for Meade right there, and they're going out there just to reinforce Rosecrans and help him out and help break the Cracker line as well. And you're also going to have Sherman coming down from Vicksburg as well.
Right, and so for purposes of what we're talking about here, Meade's going to lose most of his 11th Corps, including the man with the rock-hard abs and the manly face. General Howard's
the one-armed man.
West.
He's the Christian general.
He's also going to lose Henry Slocum, and they're going to go out to Chattanooga, okay? And Lincoln, the reason why is Lincoln's under the impression, I mean, obviously he wants to help out Rosecrans, but he's also under the impression that Meade's army is too big to sit around idly on defense. It's just too big. So what's going to happen is 13,100 men are going to be sent west, but they're going to be offset, though, by the arrival of around 9,000 returnees coming back from New York from the draft riots. So it's still going to be it's still going to be a 4,000 person differential. But Meade still got 88,000 guys after the 11th and 12th go. So he's still got a bunch of people. But Meade, though, he sees this transference of these two corps out west is an indication that maybe, Lincoln kind of wants him to kind of stay where he's at. He just wants to just stay where you are with that, right? But he's also thinking maybe he wants me to go on the offensive. Maybe he's saying that I have too many for defense, but maybe I need to use what I have to go on the offensive. But there's all these mixed messages that Meade is getting. It's not going to be long until Robert E. Lee finds out, Mary, that all those 13,100 troops got sent. He's going to find out himself. Also throw in the fact that Lee knows that this army that's still sitting there with me, these 88,000 men, is not his father's Gettysburg
No.
army. This is a different army of the Potomac. What's going to happen is obviously there's a lot of senior leadership changes.
Yeah.
The first corps is now controlled by John Newton. The second corps is temporarily commanded by Governor Kimball Warren
Yeah.
because Hancock got injured at
Yeah.
Gettysburg,
Yeah.
obviously, right? The remains of that third corps that got destroyed at Gettysburg, Sickles' old corps, is going to be commanded by the perma-blinking William French. He's going to be there. And George Sykes is still going to command the fifth.
Yep.
And John Sedgwick is still going to command the sixth. So you see a lot of inexperience now in the upper levels of the Army of the Potomac. And Lee knows it. So he basically is thinking, well, there might be an opportunity here. Yeah.
But he's just as broken. He's just as broken in some ways as well too, because you have Pickett getting destroyed at Pickett's charge. You have all those officers that are taken. They're either killed or they're wounded. He's lost men like Isaac Trimble as well, who's in prison camp at this time, I believe. And I think Lee is just they're kind of in. They're very similar right now in what they're going through, I think.
No, he is, but he also knows that this is as close to numbers as he's been in a while.
Yes.
And he knows what he has. So he's thinking, I don't have this gigantic numerical disadvantage. I'm still shorthanded, but it's closer than it's been. You mentioned injuries. Wade Hampton's also injured.
Yep.
He took a sword to the noggin at East Cavalry Field at Gettysburg. So Jeb Stuart is commanding not only the corps, he's also commanding Hampton's division. And that's going to cause problems too. He's also going to Fitzhugh Lee as well. But what's going to happen is he's going to be set up, Lee is, along the Rapidan. He's going to have Jeb Stuart covering his left flank and Fitzhugh Lee covering his right flank. He's going to basically have A.P. Hill's 3 divisions lined up on his rebel left and Richard Ewell on his right. And this is how it's going to look on October 7th, October 8th. Now, the reason we're talking about all this, we're going to get to Bristoe Station, I promise, is because there's a setup to this, and there's a reason why these machinations, how they move and get to where they're going to go. And it's a fascinating cat and mouse story between Lee and Meade. Okay, so Lee is going to begin to move them. He is going to slowly start to mass them on the rebel left. Okay, because he knows that Meade is in the Culpeper V.
Yeah.
He knows it's in a vulnerable position, and he knows the numbers are closer. So he's thinking this might be a chance to go and get him, right? Now, in the movie Independence Day, Mary, have you ever seen that movie Independence Day?
Yes, I love that
Jeff
movie.
Goldblum talks about how the aliens are moving the chess pieces around, and then when they get in position, then they attack and take the queen, right? I don't know if Meade saw the movie or not, but if he did, he would know that this was what Lee was doing.
Yeah.
He was moving the chess pieces around, getting ready to attack, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Now, Meade, he knows the Confederates are moving. He knows it for 2 reasons. First, his intelligence has cracked the signal code for the flag guys.
Yeah.
In the signal stations, he knows. Also, the Richmond newspapers are detailing Lee's movements in the newspaper. They're reporting it, and so he just picks up the damn paper and he goes online. I don't know what he does, but
he subscription.
He sees almost in real time that Lee's moving. Now, here's the thing, though. The question of what is Lee up to is what was keeping Meade up at night. And this is first and center in his head. And he knows it has to be one of 3 things. Meade's thinking Lee's got to be doing one of these 3 things. He's going to try to swing around my right to get between me and Washington, which is the second Manassas game plan. That's Lee's playbook, is his old chestnut dusted off. He's thinking he might be doing that. He's also thinking he could be preparing to hit me right in the Culpeper V, right on, okay? The third thing is that he's setting up for a retreat back over the Rapidan.
Yeah.
So he knows it's one of those 3, but he doesn't know what. But he does know this. The worst scenario is the third one. Because if he's sitting back wondering what Lee's going to do, and Lee sneaks over and takes off and goes away, he knows he's getting fired.
Yeah.
He has to.
Well, that's the thing is I think he's beginning to think I'm on borrowed time because the 2 guys that before me, Burnside and Hooker, they're not in there for very long. And he's starting to get to that mark where it's like, oh, what's going to happen to me?
Well, think about it. You move into a position that's designed to attack offensively,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you see Lee moving, and you don't do anything, and he just walks away.
Yeah.
I mean that's what he.
Well, it's
But
basically
that
he would get accused of doing what McClellan did, right?
yeah, exactly. But so this is what's going on in his head. And it's a tough situation for the old turtle, the old snapping turtle,
Yeah.
Mary, because it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of those three choices is a good position if you're sitting on defense
Yeah.
in a very vulnerable place, right? Meade's going to do what is he going to do? He's going to do both here. He's going to respond offensively and defensively. He's going to keep most of his army where they are in that Iron Triangle, that Culpeper V, but he's going to send John Buford's cavalry along with some infantry from the 5th and 6th Corps around the rebel right to try to attack him, to try to see what's going on, right? And this is going to lead to a comedy of errors of communication. Meade thinks Buford's going to leave is going to basically leave on the 10th of October.
Yep.
And he's going to be leaving around 11 p.m. That's what the orders are. And he never gets the orders on time, so it all gets completely screwed up. He's also going to send Judson Kilpatrick on a fun run around the rebel left.
Yeah.
And he because he's looking for Lee's infantry at this point. I'm going to send these cavalry guys out to go freaking find them. And what's going to happen is he's not going to find them. He's going to look and he can't. Kilpatrick's going to run into Stuart and Fitzhugh Lee at a place called James City, Virginia. And they're going to skirmish back and forth. And they're going to do cavalry fighting and the usual, right? At this point, Meade, he can't find Lee. He hasn't heard a word from Buford because Buford ends up fighting for his life at the Battle of Morton's Ford.
Yep.
Because he's going to end up running into cavalry as well. But he's pretty convinced at this point, by seeing the cavalry where they are, the Confederates, that Lee's probably not retreating, and he's likely in the early stages of an offensive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Meade's thinking. He's like, okay, so for this reason, he realizes he's in a vulnerable spot. He's going to call back Buford in that 5th and 6th Corps, and he's going to begin to pull his army back to Culpeper Courthouse as soon as possible. And once they get there, he says, this is not the place to be. We need to move out of this Culpeper V. So on the 11th of October, he issues General Order GTFO to Culpeper V, right? Because he knows, because if this guy's on an offensive, this is not right where I want to be. He's going to head north along the Rappahannock, and he's going to set up a defensive line, and they're going to get there on the 12th of October, okay? Mm-hmm. On the rebel side, what's going on over there? Jeb Stuart is going to ride into the Culpeper Courthouse on the 11th, ahead of Lee's infantry, to ride north to the town. And it's going to end up in this dramatic chase where you can have 4 cavalry divisions all going full speed. Because Kilpatrick and Buford are going, they're going to go past the old Brandy Station battlefield, north of Culpeper Courthouse. And they're all moving at this point. So on October 12th, George Meade and his infantry, they're set up in a defensive position on the banks of the Rappahannock, but he's still unsure what Lee's attack plans are. He can't find the rebel infantry, thanks to Stuart's cavalry primarily, but Meade's nervous now because he's starting to wonder if all this movement, all these movements are just a big ruse by Lee, right? Have you ever seen that meme with the Undertaker, the wrestler?
Yep.
And he's laughing, and the Undertaker shows up behind him.
Yep.
That's kind of what's going to happen with this whole thing, because when at the end of the day, Lee's going to get right behind him, and he's not even going to know it.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, Washington is going to get word now that Meade has pulled out of Culpeper, and they are pissed off because you left this area without a fight, just left it, and for the most part, because he hears that Lee is pulled out. Washington hears that Lee is pulled out of his defensive position along the river, so they've drawn him out. But instead of going to attack him, Meade backs off.
Yeah.
And Lincoln, the guy with the hat, Mary, he ain't having it. They're not having it. So Meade knows he has to act, and he does for the most part. So on the 12th, he's going to send Buford again with those 5th and 6th Corps, along with some 2nd Corps troops, all under the command of John Sedgwick in the 6th Corps. This is going to be close to half of his entire army. And he's going to send them back south across the Rappahannock to see if Lee's still there. Oh, and by the way, if you're there, you want to fight. You want to fight? We're
Yep.
going to come find you. Right? So they're going to march down the Orange and Alexandria Railroad, that lifeline we talked about,
Yep.
to get back into Culpeper. Okay, and they're waiting because they're pretty sure that Lee's in Culpeper now. So Buford gets down there, and Meade gets a message back, and it says, "Hey George, guess what? There's no Rebs here."
Yeah.
And so Meade, you got to think this for a second. He was positive that's where they were, but now he absolutely has no idea where Lee is. While he's doing this big movement across the Rappahannock, Lee is actually crossing the Rappahannock beyond Meade's right flank. Yeah. And who's going to find him finally is Dave McMurtry Gregg, the hero of Gettysburg, DMG. July 3rd, right?
Yeah.
Run DMG. He's going to find Richard Ewell's corps near the town of Jefferson, Virginia. So Lee is going to get word basically about 9 p.m. on 10/12, that Lee is close. And he's going to sit there and he's going to have a true pucker effect moment, because he's going to realize at this moment, here's where the Undertaker meme comes in. He realizes that Lee's army is behind him on his right, and half of his army is across the river looking for him in an empty field. So he's vulnerable now. So
he's
George
kind
Meade
of divided his force the way, like, this is what Rosecrans does leading into Chickamauga, is he hasn't really divided his force. It's really spread out. But Meade, dividing your force is risky. Now, Lee has done it. He did it at Chancellorsville and it was successful. But this is for Meade, I can't imagine the pressure he's feeling with, if this goes wrong, I'm gone. I'm fired. And who knows what's going to happen to me, kind of thing.
So Meade pulls out of the Culpeper V because he feels that position is vulnerable, okay? But somehow he put himself in a worse position by overthinking Lee's intentions. Mm-hmm. Somehow Lee played Meade to be a fool without even trying, because this was how much Lee was in Meade's head at this point. So Meade knows now he's got to react quickly, because now he knows he really is in trouble. He knows he's not retreating. He's on his right flank. He's behind him, and half of his army is across the river. So he's, oh crap, you've got to be kidding me. So what's going to happen? He's going to order his troops northward now along the Orange and Alexandria Railroad to get the hell out of Dodge. We got to get out of here, right? Naturally, there's more problems for Meade, because it's just picture goes on and on and on. He runs into a problem, and the problem is 1,200 reserve supply wagons that are in his way, and they are clogging the F up out of the railroad. Picture 1,200 wagons.
That's a lot.
You're trying to march. Now, the army's not in trains. They're marching along the railroad. They need to get out of here quickly. And you end up with a traffic jam like Storrow Drive on a Friday in Boston all of a sudden, because you're trying to send your army up, that you're calling back the rest of the army, and you're trying to send the rest of your army north. But as you start going, you have 1,200 wagons just sitting there, right? So what's going to basically happen is to clear up this gridlock, Meade's going to split up his army again. And he's going to send his 2nd and 3rd Corps. This is under Warren and Blinky and French, along with Gregg's cavalry and Kilpatrick's cavalry, to go around to the west on an alternate route towards the town of Auburn, Virginia. And while the rest of the army is going to follow those supply wagons and march up the train tracks. So that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a 2-pronged parallel line marching north, with the ultimate goal to get to Centerville, not far from Manassas, where there's more defenses, and that's the place they're going to go. Now, Lee, he has supply problems himself at this point, okay? At this point of the year, this is 2 years in now, this point of the war, rather, Northern Virginia is a wasteland.
Yeah.
So he wants to go move quickly, too, because he wants to get around Meade and get between him, but he has to sit and wait for his supply wagons to catch up with his army, because they're in the back.
Well, he's got all those groceries from that big shopping trip into
Tell me about it.
Pennsylvania.
The ho-hos and everything. They had to do that.
No DQ, though.
No, absolutely not. So Lee has to stop now. And by stopping, he's unwittingly unknowing that Meade is moving, and the advantage he had of being around him, Meade's gonna kind of start to slip on right by. So during during early on October 13th, okay, Jeb Stuart, he's sitting there, they're waiting for the wagons. He wants to kind of go east, and he wants to go check out the Union, what they're doing on those train
Yep.
tracks. He wants to go scout them out a little bit. So they're sitting around. He's like, okay, just go over there and go find out. And what's going to happen is he's gonna basically start to move. And when he does, he what's going to happen is he doesn't realize that the second and third corps is coming. And so when he goes and he crosses to go towards the railroad, he's going to end up between two armies marching northeast, and he can't get back. He's going to be stuck in the middle. He's going to be Malcolm in the middle, right? He won't be able to go anywhere. So what's going to happen is he's going to end up going to basically see what the situation is, and he's going to leave Lunsford Lomax behind to go see what the deal is, and he's going to leave him back in that town of Auburn to basically cover his rear. Now, while Jeb is doing his recon, he's going to the train track. He's seeing the army. Yeah. What does he see? He sees those 1,200 wagons, and he's going to basically see them all, and his eyes are going to turn into saucers because he knows there's nothing to eat in the area. We're waiting for wagons. There's 1,200 probably ho-hos in there waiting to get these.
Yep.
And they said that they were all sitting in a field. There was so many with white tops that looked like snow.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Well, and then doesn't he see like Union soldiers lounging around as well? Just
he sees them
hanging
all,
out.
They're all
yeah.
And so, but he sees that, he knows Lee's waiting for supplies. So he thinks it's an opportunity to bag these supplies. He's going to send a message back to Lee. He's like, why don't we send some troops over here? We'll go get this stuff. Well, what's going to happen is, there's the Union Third Corps under French. They're going to begin to approach Auburn, just like I said, and they're going to run into Lomax. And Lomax is going to immediately fall back, and he's going to tell Jeb, hey, we're cut off. We got Union troops going northeast to our east and northeast to our west. And we're in the middle with two lines going up, and we're stuck, just like I said, right in the middle. So what's Jeb going to have to do? They're going to have to hide in the woods overnight.
No,
they're going to have to take us, and they're going to sit in the woods. And you can only imagine how much fun that must have been, keeping horses quiet and being, because you get caught, you were screwed. Yeah. You absolutely were.
Yep.
He's going to try to send another message back to Lee to get through that line, saying, hey, listen, if you send infantry and you hit this marching line from the west, I can do it from the east, and we can at least mess stuff up a little bit. But Lee doesn't want to do it because he wants to keep his army moving. So that's not going to happen. But he also doesn't want to leave Jeb behind. He doesn't want to leave him behind. So, he's wondering if up to this point he hasn't heard from Jeb because he can't get the messages through, and he's having deja vu all over again. Where the hell's Jeb Stuart?
Gettysburg, the flashbacks.
Exactly. And so he's worried, and then he finds out the deal, what he's going to do. Okay. Lee did get that second message, but like I said, he doesn't want to go fight. But he can't leave him alone. So what's going to happen is he's going to send Richard Ewell, his Second Corps, into Auburn, a portion of it to go bail him out. Let's just go get him. We'll fight. We have no choice. So on dawn, on October 14th, Ewell and A.P. Hill, they're about 6 miles apart, while French's Third Corps, they're going to pass through Auburn. And they're going to arrive in a place called Greenwich, Virginia. That doesn't really matter, but they're on the way to Bristoe.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of the Union Army is east now, marching northeast on the railroad, heading through Bristoe Station on the way to Centerville, which was, like I said, was going to be their final destination. Right. Governor Kimball Warren, his Second Corps, he's going to be with David McMurtry Gregg's cavalry in his division, and they're going to be camped about a mile south of Auburn. But instead of following French around the west towards Greenwich, they're going to stay in Auburn to deal with Ewell because they know Ewell's there now. Yep. So they're going to have to fight him, but then they know they can't fight him long because they just can't. So they're going to eventually know they're going to have to move east and hook up with the railroad again. So no longer are they going to be with the Third Corps marching around the west. They're going to have to be with the other armies on the railroad and follow the north rest of the army. This is going to lead to the Battle of Auburn. This is just a small little battle on October 14th, where Jeb Stuart is going to attack John Caldwell's division as he approached Jed's hiding space, his tree fort in the woods. They get close.
I just pictured that as tree fort.
But what's going to happen is Jeb is going to open up on Caldwell
Yep.
with artillery. Caldwell's army is going to be early in the morning. They're going to be sitting on a hill boiling coffee. When
Coffee
all of a sudden
Hill.
they're going to get attacked, and
Yep.
it's going to be called Coffee Hill because, and it still is today, because that's what they from this battle.
Yep.
It's going to end up killing about 30 guys. Now Ewell's going to end up deploying his corps after Jeb exposed his position, because he knows he has to make a run for it. Jeb is actually going to escape from Alexander Hayes' division,
Yep.
thanks to the 1st North Carolina Cavalry Regiment, who basically sacrificed themselves so Jeb can get away. Thank you for nothing, by the way. But Jeb was supposed to stay to support Ewell and Hill's Corps. But what happens is after he escapes, he thinks he's following Ewell's infantry, but he's actually following some sharpshooters, and he ends up going the wrong way, and he's kind of out of it for the rest of the day. And that's what's going to happen. But before Ewell, his men get fully online in Auburn, Warren knows, like I said, he knows he can't stay. He's going to basically pack up the car. Let's get the hell out of here quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They fought a little bit, but they had to go. Let's move east of the railroad quick, hook up with the army, and get going. Warren, his quote, he says, "To halt there was to await annihilation, and to move as prescribed carried me along routes in a valley commanded by heights on each side." So Warren knows he has to get out of there quick, as he's in a vulnerable position. Now, another reason why Warren wants to move is because Meade left very specific orders with his corps commanders that he wanted them to stay relatively close enough to support each other. He didn't want them all spread out to get beaten piecemeal. So what's going to happen is he's going to end up moving, and he's going to basically wants to be able to offer support to these other corps. Kind of what he does. The 2nd Corps under Warren is now the rear guard of the army. So everything's all mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically the caboose, if you will, of the Army of the Potomac, right? There you go. So Ewell's going to end up withdrawing. He's going to go back. He's going to follow E.P. Hill. They're going to continue marching north as well to get around Meade's right flank, and these armies are all moving again. So we get to 2 p.m. now, October 14th. A.P. Hill is going to arrive at a place called Bristoe Station, okay? And with his division of Harry Heath in the lead. Now, they're going to get there, and Hill is going to be standing on a hill, so that's 5 times quick, right? And they're going to be overlooking an open field leading to some train tracks of the Orange and Alexandria Railroad at Bristoe Station, okay? If you've been there before, Bristoe Station is basically just southeast of Manassas, is about 10 miles from Meade's target in Centerville, which he wants to go. So if Lee knows, if I'm going to hit Meade, because I just wanted to do some damage to this guy, this is probably one of my last chances to do it, because the door's closing, right? The railroad tracks, and they're still the same way today, although not as tall, is it runs on top of an embankment, so it creates a natural cover for anyone hiding behind. But what Hill sees, and this is Hill makes a lot of mistakes with this.
Shocker.
Nice to see Hill in a battle, by the way.
I know. I was actually gonna, when I was kind of studying this battle, I was like, wow, is Hill actually here? Because
he's here already.
He's got a thing of calling in sick.
What Hill's going to see is he sees, he looks across and he sees the 5th Corps under George Sykes, old tardy George. Okay, he's going to be sitting there nearby across a stream called Broad Run. Sykes was moving north on the railroad, and he was kind of sitting there waiting, and he presented a perfect target for Hill. Now, Sykes, for the most part, like I said, he's positioned there, and he's waiting for Warren. And what he doesn't know is Warren was engaged at Auburn. He just doesn't know where the hell Warren is. But George Sykes does not like sitting there where he is. He doesn't like the area. Who the hell knows? But he's told to wait by Meade for Warren. As soon as you start to see them coming, you can go, but do not go until then, because he doesn't want to form a gap between the two, because he knows the Confederate army's nearby, and he doesn't want to get a corps destroyed. But Sykes is getting impatient. He doesn't want to wait anymore. He's getting pissy, kind of like you are, waiting for the bar to open at 7:00 in the morning, right? And so he knows. So basically, Sykes is going to message Warren. Basically, where the hell are you? Hurry up! I want to get out of here. My shift ends. You're replacing me. I gotta go. It's kind of just like that. And this is going to cause a huge issue for them afterwards, by the way. Talk briefly about that.
Yeah.
Sykes looks down the trail tracks, and he sees the early advanced scouting guard of Warren's Second Corps coming. And he goes, well, good enough for me. Let's go, boys. Roll them up. We're out of here, right? But what he doesn't know is the Second Corps is still a few miles away.
Mm-hmm.
But he sees the very first ray of sunshine. He thinks it's noontime. It's time to go. Let's get the hell out of here, right? And that's going to be a huge problem. And an angry soldier in the Second Corps after the battle, he has a great quote about this. He says, Sykes was told the Second Corps was coming, and indeed it was, as was Christmas. That's what he said.
Oh, my God.
And it caused him leaving caused a lot of problems, and it pissed a lot of people off. What Sykes was doing, he was about to hang Warren and the Second Corps out to dry and leaving no support. For one time, Tardy George was in a hurry. He wanted to go. And it's afterwards a big reason why he got replaced by Warren later on. The official reason was he got sciatica and he physically couldn't go anymore.
Sciatica is very painful.
But this was Sykes' last hurrah. They were done with him after this, as far as that goes. So when Hill sees the Fifth Corps starting to move, he thinks the Fifth Corps is the caboose and not the Second Corps. For whatever reason, Hill says, that's the back of the Union Army. I want to hit them as they're going up the railroad.
He wants to hit that?
He wants to hit that Savannah hard. Okay?
Hill's done that a few times in his life.
Now, not to give away the story here, but if you're going to hit the Fifth Corps in the rear and that's the end, that's a good plan. Unless there's a whole corps coming up behind you don't know about.
There's a whole
and that's why the Battle of Bristoe Station is also known as Hill's Folly, because this is not a good day for him, right? So what's going to happen is he's basically going to find out. Sykes has no idea, like I said, about the Battle of Auburn, but he's delayed. He's going to go, and neither does Hill for the most part. He doesn't know either, but he was sure that Sykes was the end. That was the last train. This is going to be my chance. He's going to send in Heath's division, two gigantic North Carolina regiments of 4,000 men under William Kirkland and John Cook. He's also going to set up artillery under a guy named William Pogue. And what he wants to do is he wants to hit the withdrawing Fifth Corps. This is my chance to go again, right? The other miss that Hill is going to have is going to be the arrival of the real vanguard of the Second Corps. And this is going to be under Alexander Webb, who was temporarily in charge of the command because of John Gibbon, who he went down to Gettysburg as well.
Yeah, he's wounded in Pickett's charge.
Yeah. So once Hill attacks, and here's the thing that's amazing about this. Once Hill attacks, Sykes could obviously hear the artillery in his rear. You know what he does? Nothing. He keeps going.
I'm not shocked, given what I know about him.
But you know what, though? Not all of them, though. Basically, you had one division of Pennsylvania men under William McCandless, who was on Little Round Top at Gettysburg on the north slope of it. He decides to stay and fight. So McCandless's men are going to fight while the rest of the Fifth Corps is howling it up the railroad track. Is how it's going to go, right? Cook and Kirkland's Confederate, they're going to be, the North Carolinians rather. They're going to, remember I mentioned that Hill said there was that big open field between what he saw and the tracks.
Yep.
That's where Cook and Kirkland are going to march across open fields. And if you go to Bristoe Station and you stand on the top of the hill and you look down, you can still see the field. And it's almost the same for the most part. The Battlefield Trust, the Bristoe Heritage people have done a good job maintaining it for the most part. What's going to happen is they're going to begin to move across, and what happens is when Webb's division arrives, this is going to be brigades commanded by Francis Heath's men, headlined by those hard-fighting Gettysburg regiments, 1st Minnesota, 19th Maine, 15th Mass, 82nd New York. These are battle-tested guys. Warren is going to see this. He's going to personally line up his division behind that railroad track and that embankment. And they're going to be he's going to set up those guys right next to Jay Mallon's men of his old 42nd New York, the 19th, the 20th Massachusetts, the 7th Michigan, and the 59th New York. Okay, now these are all, like I said, these are battle-tested guys. Warren is an engineer by trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's also going to set up artillery under William Arnold's 1st Rhode Island Light Artillery. Ricketts is going to send his 1st Pennsylvania. Nelson Ames 1st New York. They're going to set up on high ground behind this railroad track.
Yeah.
So what you have basically is infantry lined up behind an embankment and a really good natural cover with a high ground behind with artillery set up. Okay. And when Alexander, basically he's going to set up 50, I think it's 16 total guns that Warren's going to set up. He's a really good defensive position to go here, right? When Alexander Hayes' division arrives, because now you have the Second Corps arriving now, they're going to basically be deployed by Warren. They're going to be right behind the railroad track on Webb's left. Mm-hmm. So G.K. Warren is going to have 8,300 men lined up in this defensive position. He's still undermanned though.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to lead to a 30-minute engagement that's going to be known later on as the Battle of Bristoe Station. Okay. Now the thing about it though, when you're looking at the actual battle, you've got those 2 huge North Carolina brigades coming down, Cook and Kirkland, right? And they kind of make a half-assed attack at first because they think they're attacking retreating 5th Corps guys. So they're kind of swinging around like towards their left a little bit because they figure that's where they were going.
Yeah.
Once Warren's men showed themselves and started firing, a lot of these North Carolinians were cut to ribbons almost immediately.
Yeah.
Cook is going to hit in the leg. He's going to go down. Kirkland's going to get shot as well. And they realize that they've got themselves a battle here.
Yeah.
Right. And so Heath, the division commander at this point, he got his dander up. He decides he's going to push all his chips to the table and he's going to go all in.
Yeah.
Now. He sees the Union there. They know they want to fight. And so he's going to set up 7 guns under a guy named David McIntosh to fire down, but they're setting up guns under fire. So it's just the whole
and then
thing
don't the Union the Union responds right away, right? Like they're like, "Well, you're doing this, we're going to do it right back to you."
Well, here's the folly I mentioned before. For whatever reason, Hill never reconned. Now Jeb Stuart's gone. He's chasing butterflies with the sharpshooters heading the wrong way on the railroad track. But he doesn't know the Second Corps is coming. And he should know better than that, admittedly. He's a battle-tested guy.
Well, you'd think he would have learned. And I mean, I know Lee is not very happy with Hill after this battle at all, to the point where he's like, say no more about it. So that pretty much tells you all you need to know about how Lee feels about this.
Well, I mean, some of these Rebs in North Carolina, 27th North Carolina, 68% casualties.
These are guys that like Pettigrew's guys are there, and they lost a lot. The 26th North Carolina, they're there too, right? And they lost a lot of guys.
The 26th North Carolina, they are going to be there. They're from Pearson Ridge at Gettysburg. They were one of the only ones that broke the Union line for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
They got through to the right side of the Union line and hit that 3rd Brigade in Webb's division. Brigadier General James Mallon, he was in charge of the 49th New York. He's an ancestor of the actor Brian Mallon. Speaking of Gettysburg movie, he's going to be killed here. James Mallon's going to go down here, right? Irish guy. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, what's going to basically happen is the Union troops, for the most part, are going to start to get offensive now. They're going to move into this field. They see these Carolinians drawing a little bit, falling back. They're going to move forward. Now, this is all going on while McIntosh is trying to set up his guns. And there's that old story where somehow McIntosh lost his guns to a retreating army. That story kind of got around. But they're going to begin to move forward. And what's going to happen for the most part is it's going to get late in the day now. Darkness is going to start to fall. And so this is going to end up being a huge advantage for Warren, okay? Because at this point, Richard Anderson's division is showing up now. So there's more and more Confederates coming onto the dance floor with this. So Caldwell's going to show up as well. So you're going to have the full Second Corps, but you're almost going to have, for the most part, the entire Second Corps, the Confederate Second Corps and the Third Corps all arriving kind of all at the same time. And then to make it even worse for Warren, guess what shows up again? Those friggin' wagons.
Yep.
The 1,200 wagons come rumbling down the road and slows everything up again. They
It's
end up
also
getting
been
diverted.
raining, so the roads are
Oh
really
yeah.
shitty too from that.
So they end up diverting the wagons to get away from the battlefields. Okay. Now Ewell, he's going to arrive now right next to Robert E. Lee. The big boss is riding up with him, and he's going to see this whole thing. He's going to look at the fields, and he's going to basically say, you know what? This is my chance to bag a big part of Meade's army. It's
Yep.
what I've wanted. We're going to do it. He's got 40,000 men on the battlefield now, Lee does, versus 8,300 Union guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it's lining up for a real bad friggin' day for G.K. Warren, okay? And it's just, but what happens is Ewell wants to hit Warren's flank. So what he's going to do, and this battle is such a hilarious comedy of errors.
Mm-hmm.
Ewell's going to order Gordon to basically go hit the flank. John Brown Gordon, who's usually really good,
Yep.
is going to start to go. He's going to see those wagons. And for whatever reason, he chases the wagons. That's what he does. So now Gordon, because he's gone, he was going to be Jewell Early's support to attack.
Yep.
Now Early can't attack because he has no Gordon because he's chasing the wagons now. So the whole thing's falling apart. And you can imagine Lee face palming as this whole thing is going down. I mean, you're talking 4-1. I mean, you just have it, right? So Lee says, let's just go around, get on the railroad, don't hit them frontally, go around them and push, kind of hit the railroad like you're rolling up a blanket. Just like Emmitsburg Road at Gettysburg. Fling around and just hit them and roll them up. That's what we're going to do, okay? And hit them right in the savannah, like we said before. That's what he's going to try. Hit the left flank and get them going, okay? The problem is when they're ready to go, it gets dark. And Lee says, oh, okay, everyone just stop, okay?
Yep.
Let's wait until the morning of the 15th. In the morning, we're going to start, and we're going to send Cook and Kirkland's brigades down there again, and we're going to go around their left flank, and then we're going to attack, and we're going to drive. That's what we're going to do, okay? Sun comes up the next morning, right? Kirkland and Cook, they sneak down there. Very quiet, right? They're going to go down there, and they're going to go hit them. They run across the railroad tracks, and they charge, pull out their guns, they aim them, and guess what's there? Nothing. Warren took off.
Yep.
During the night, Warren took his army and said, let's get out of here. There's a lot of guys up there, a lot of NASCAR fans on the hill up there. We don't want to stick around here, right? So what he wants to do is he wants to go up north, follow the rest of the army. He goes, well, you know what? The army is moving ahead. Sykes' 5th Corps is way up there now. This is his second battle of the day for Warren with Auburn and now Bristoe Station. So he's like, the hell with this. So he goes up the tracks. We're just going to go. We're going to catch up to Sykes. We're going to get out of here. Okay. So they go back and they find out, Lee does, that Warren's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert E. Lee is angry than a Patriot season ticket holder right now. That's how mad he is, right? Because he knows he missed a chance.
Yep.
And like to you, what you said a little while ago, he is going to be mad at Hill, as he should be.
I think everybody's mad at Hill. Like Sandy Pendleton said that Hill is a fool and woeful blunder.
Well, Hill, and it all goes back to the fact that he goes and he does all of this without checking. He doesn't verify that the 5th Corps is the back. He doesn't know the 2nd Corps is coming, and he knows it. And also, he attacks before the rest of the army is there. He knows Ewell's coming, but he sends those 4,000 men initially, Cook and Kirkland, to go hit that what he thought was the retreating 5th Corps, and they get stuck and run into a buzzsaw when Warren's got. It's a great day for Warren, by the way.
Yeah, Warren does really well here. And A.P. Hill, he gets official censure as well. Like Seddon, the Confederate Secretary of War, said the disaster at Bristoe Station seems due to the gallant but over hasty pressing of the enemy. And Jefferson Davis was very critical as well, saying that there was a want of vigilance.
Yeah. I mean, for whatever reason, A.P. Hill did maybe because he felt bad for missing a lot of Gettysburg. Who knows why?
I was thinking that. I was thinking, is this somehow some kind of thing where he's like, oh shit, I can get my redemption here, like what we've seen with other battles in the Civil War that we've talked about. Is this like kind of him like taking that risk and thinking, okay, if this pays off, it's got huge, like it's going to be huge for me. But as we see, it doesn't pay off for him. And
No, for whatever reason, he attacks without doing any coordination, any reconnaissance. His assault basically was nothing more than a YOLO moment for him.
yeah,
Just go and attack and go get him with no leadership and absolutely no foresight. Just
yeah,
went ahead and do it. Now, reportedly, Lee is laying him out and just going on him, right?
mm-hmm.
And AP Hill kind of drops his head, gets a little sad, just
Aw.
flashes puppy dog eyes a little bit, right? And this is when Lee, like you said, collects himself like he does, and he says, "Let us bury these poor men and say no more of it."
Heard that in
And
Martin
Hill, of
Sheen's
course,
voice.
yeah, he does, and I mean, Hill's for the most part is demasculated here. He just is,
Yeah,
and
I mean, Hill is kind of, he's kind of a funnier figure in the Civil War, but he's also kind of a tragic figure too, because he obviously has a lot of health problems. But then when he is healthy here, seemingly because he's actually at the battle, he just, it's such bad luck for him, right? Like, so he's kind of one of these more tragic figures in the Confederate Army.
and there's a lot of reasons why we talk, of why he attacks. There's rumors that Gouverneur Kimball Warren dated the same woman back in the day too, just like McClellan.
Serious? Oh,
There's
I'm not
rumors of
shocked.
that,
I'm not shocked about Warren. I think
so
Warren dated
so
anything that walked.
but there's a lot of animosity with this.
Yeah.
Lee decides for this point just call off the dogs on the whole thing. It's pointless. He realized he's got few supplies. He can't chase meat any further. He just can't. He's almost heading towards Centerville, and he's getting close to Washington. He says enough is enough. So he's going to basically Lee is now fall back towards the Rappahannock River again. And it's funny because after the battle, Warren is going to go find Sykes. Where the hell is Sykes? I need to talk to Sykes.
I hope he lays him out for this one.
And he does.
Good.
He flips out on him so badly that even Warren felt bad and apologized later for it. You can only imagine how that conversation must have went.
Oh my God.
I mean, because you can't blame him though.
No.
But in the end, Warren, who was in temporary command of the Second Corps, like I said, he's going to fight two battles, not one, on that October 14th, the Battle of Auburn, the Battle of Bristoe Station. For this, he's going to earn permanent corps command of the Fifth Corps, which is ironically is going to replace George Sykes. And once a Winnie Boy there comes back to command the Second Corps after he got his injury there, right? And the thing about it though is Lee knew this. In the end, Lee had a great chance, but AP Hill bumbled it all away at Bristoe Station. That's why, like I said, that's why they call it Hill's folly in a lot of cases. But it wasn't just Hill's fault. And this is the thing when you look at it, when you're slicing up the blame pie and you're handing out the slices, okay? It's not just Hill. You have to also blame Jeb. For basically going the wrong direction. Because what happens is because Jeb's not there, even if Hill wanted to do a reconnaissance, he doesn't have the cavalry to do it. So that gets him as well too. And for the most part, the two armies are still going to kind of skirmish off and on the next couple of weeks. Jeb is going to feel bad, try to redeem himself by fighting cavalry under Judge Kilpatrick again on the 19th, which is going to be called the Battle of Buckland Mills, which is just northwest of Bristoe Station. So they're still going to be kind of going at each other a little bit. Lee is going to fall back to Kelly's Ford in Rappahannock Station, and Meade is actually going to send troops down to try to push him back again because he wants to get him over the Rapidan, right? So he's going to send troops down on November 7th. It's going to end up being the Battle of Kelly's Ford and Rappahannock Station, which will ultimately push Lee back all the way to Orange County across the Rapidan when Lee started. And you got to give Meade credit; he's the only guy to do that. The other guys couldn't do that, but he actually did.
Well, Meade doesn't get enough credit as commander of the Army of the Potomac, and I think it's because nobody studies. Like, he's most well known for Gettysburg, obviously, and then he kind of, well, I shouldn't say kind of, he does get overshadowed when Grant comes east, and I think this is a part of Meade, not just Meade's career, but in the Civil War, but the post-Gettysburg in the Eastern Theater that doesn't get looked at enough, because it does show that Meade was competent. Yes, he's struggling to figure out what the hell Lee is doing, but then in the end, as you say, he drives Lee away.
No, he does. But the takeaway from the Battle of Bristoe Station and really the Bristoe campaign, this is what all is called, It's a fascinating study because really it shows how brilliantly Robert E. Lee was able to fool Meade.
Hmm.
But in the end, circumstances and communication issues is going to be the Rebs' undoing here, and Lee is going to really miss an opportunity to inflict punishment on Meade's Army of the Potomac, even without his first corps with James Longstreet. Lee was that close, and with everything going on, with armies being moved up and down the
Hmm.
train tracks, with the Battle of Auburn Station, I mean the Battle of Auburn, leading to the Battle of Bristoe Station, there was so much opportunity, but Lee having to wait for his supplies really doomed him in a lot of different ways. But again, getting to Bristoe Station and AP Hill jumping the gun and hitting Sykes, thinking he
Yeah.
was the end, while a whole Army Corps is coming up from behind you, it really doomed him, and it created an opportunity really that ultimately made Meade kind of look bad, but he kind of redeemed himself later.
Yeah.
But for Lee, it's clearly a missed opportunity, and this is why it's important. It's the campaign that follows the Gettysburg campaign,
Yeah.
with both armies stripped of numbers, stripped of leadership, especially on the Union side, with all those new corps guys and the 11th and 12th being gone. It was an opportunity Lee had, and at the end of the day, where does he find himself? Back in Orange County again,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the end of it. So when you look at the end of 1863, that fall, it doesn't just end there. And this is a fascinating study because it's that cat and mouse game that Meade and Lee
Hmm.
play for the rest of that year that I think a lot of people don't really realize. I think they don't
No.
really focus on anything post Gettysburg up until you get to early '64.
Yeah, that's what
But
I
it's
was
it's
saying. Is like it's kind of like Gettysburg ends, and then nobody looks at that, like kind of the Eastern Theater again until
well,
Grant
ironically,
is
it's
there, right? Like
yeah,
early 1864, and really, it's
but
if you're going to
yeah.
study George Gordon Meade, you need to study this part of his career because it's showing like yes, he's struggling at some points, but it's also showing his strengths. It's showing that he's doing stuff that Hooker never did, that definitely
Oh.
Burnside didn't do, and also that McClellan didn't either.
But ironically, this is the time when the Western theater overshadows the Eastern theater
Yes.
historically, when people focus on with Chickamauga, Chattanooga, everything going
Yeah.
on.
Well, I
So
mean,
I think it's a
admittedly,
I,
it is. I mean, Chattanooga is an important city for the Union to have, and like this is kind of like October is kind of the lull in that campaign too. You're getting into that siege of Chattanooga, and you really don't have things amping back up again until mid-November with the battles for Chattanooga.
no. So when you study this and you take a peek at it, it's definitely worthwhile studying because it's that psychological game
Hmm.
between the two. And so it ends up being, like I said, a missed opportunity, but I think it's one that really helps set the stage going into '64, especially when Orleans starts, where Lee's the cat and mouse game again. And this is where we talked before about how Grant kind of gets the pull the wool over his eyes,
Yes.
realizing that he's the target, not Richmond. So it's not
Yeah.
just mano a mano. The psychological game that takes place between the generals, Lee was brilliant at this. And whether he did this by definition of his mind or whether he just did it without even realizing he was doing it, but he had Meade running around in
Yeah.
circles in that Culpeper V. And it ends up in a situation where he gets away, but he's kind of lucky he got away all because of incompetency of AP Hill.
Yeah, I think I do think though that Lee knew he had a very different commander in who he was facing with Meade, different than obviously McClellan, different than definitely Burnside, and different than Hooker as well. I think Meade knew he was, with a guy that was like, yes, he could kind of pull the wool over his eyes. He could kind of, make play the psychological game with him. But I think Lee knew that at a point that would run out because Meade was good. He was really good, and people don't realize that.
No, he was. So I guess we can drop it here. I guess that's a place you can go visit Bristoe Station for the most part. It's still very similar. You can go, like I said, you can see the train station, you can see the field. They got a nice little visitor center over there. It's a great little walking area, a nice little park you can walk. The spot where Hill stood on the hill is no longer there. It's a park.
Hill stood in the hill.
uh, it's like a supermarket or a development or something up there now. But there's some sort of stores up there. But definitely go check it out. It's a great place to visit. It's a very understudied battle. So definitely with this anniversary of this battle that just happened just about a week or so
Yeah.
ago, it's definitely worthwhile studying. So what is next for us, Mary?
So next up for us, we have our book club meeting with Lisa Samia on Thursday, October 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time via Zoom. So if you'd like to attend, Civil War Breakfast Club at gmail.com. We are going to be discussing her new Civil War poetry book, which is in the Nameless and Faceless series that she's written. So it's Gettysburg, Manassas, and beyond that as well. So different poems. She covers men, women, people that just like basically nameless and faceless, that don't have kind of the voice that some of the other figures of the Civil War have. And then we also will have our Halloween episode dropping as well with Jay Price, our fourth Halloween episode that we've done with her. And then after that, we will be having our final book club of 2023 will be in November. And we will be having Tom Huntington on to talk about his book, Main Roads to Gettysburg, which
I just hope this Halloween episode is not scary. I just hope we keep
Remember when
this...
Jen scared you a few years ago?
She's an evil person. She's scary. She scared the hell out of me for no reason. She likes to scare me, Mary. I don't know why. I don't know why she does, but she freaked me out though with that story of Antietam. Oh God, no, I'll set. All said it. Anyway, all right, so off we go, Mary. So we will definitely look forward to talking to you soon. So live comes up tomorrow. This episode will drop tomorrow as well. So any final words from you, Finchero?
Well, thanks for bringing it, as you always do, especially with me being in grad school right now. And I'm actually doing the thing that is occupying a lot of my time is a project about the Killer Angels, ironically.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We weren't really planning on doing this episode, to be honest. It was kind of a last-minute throw-in. Just because we wanted to do one before Halloween. We didn't think we'd have time to with your school. We said, let's just real quick. Let's just kind of do it tonight. What do you think? We did it. So, all right, off we go. Everybody have a great weekend. Hopefully, where you're listening to this, the weather is good. Hopefully, it's a good weekend. Wouldn't it be cool if the Patriots won this weekend? Wouldn't that be cool? It ain't gonna happen though. You know why? Because AP Hill's coaching the Patriots now. That's the problem. Yeah. But I digress. All right, so off we go. Everybody have a great weekend. We will see you all on the other side.
Okay, see you later. Bye.
Peace out.
Bye.